Tomes and Tropes podcast where books and friendships collide. I'm Becca.
And I'm Keri, and we're two friends who love to talk about books. Today we are starting Reckless, and I'm super excited. And we will be talking about chapters 1 through 10 of Reckless by Lauren Roberts.
So it's time for our one-sentence summaries for chapters 1 through 10 of Reckless. If you haven't read Powerless or chapters 1 through 10 of Reckless, I guess that should be an and chapters 1 through 10 of Reckless, we'll be here when you're done.
We will. Let's get started with I always don't know how to say this word. Prologue. See, that confuses me because there's a UE at the end. Anyways. Prologue. Kai roams the quiet halls of the castle and meets Gale for a singular sticky bun that he takes to a willow tree to wish a happy birthday.
Chapter 1. Peyton has been hiding for the past 3 days and gets an unexpected visitor who confesses an unexpected truth before setting her home into flames.
Chapter 2. The chase for Peyton continues, where Peyton kills a man and Kai buries him, wondering what she has done to him because he never does this. He never cares this much.
After watching Just Kai, Peyton rests on the rooftop with the stars before choosing to keep running and picking up the pace.
Chapter 4. Tensions rise between Kit and Kai, who, as both have realized, they've changed and are searching for brotherhood again. But then Kit makes sure Kai knows to fulfill his mission, bringing Peyton back alive.
Chapter 5. Peyton struggles to make it across the scorches, but survives on spite and revenge alone.
Chapter 6. Kai has more nightmares where he's followed by death and blood. When he wakes up, he wrestles mentally with the whole situation, including his feelings for her and how much her involvement truly was.
Chapter 7. Peyton, on the brink of death, closes her eyes, but opens them to a cold heartbeat she assumes is Kai, but ends up being a guard from Door, who she kills out of self-defense again.
Arrives in Door, where he's greeted by a guard who has been stabbed by Peyton, and when he attempts to make a purchase, the merchant charges him extra for being an elite. Interesting.
Chapter 9. Peyton tries to sweet-talk Francis before finding the Fight Club and becoming Shadow.
Chapter 10. Kai meets a thief and for a brief moment thinks it's Peyton, but it's really Abigail, the ordinary girl he banished. So much happened. Also, definitely did a lot of run-on sentences this time.
That's okay.
I'm very sorry.
I feel like in order to summarize things, they need to be run-on sentences sometimes.
But I feel like I'm just like, yeah, everything is important. Forgetting we have a whole Quotables section. Good job, Keri. Anyways, let's jump into meet cutes. So we only met one, and really one significant character. We obviously met Francis. Love that guy, but I don't think he's going to be around much longer or be a very significant character. We'll see. But we met Abigail.
Okay.
So she was an ordinary who was harbored by a family of elites back in Isla. Oh my gosh, I can't. Ilya. See, I don't have the audiobook right now. So all of that gone. Anyways. We met her at the beginning of Powerless, so we know she has red hair and she has Kai's knife, which I forgot about. So love that. So it seems she's become a thief, albeit one that is not good as pay, and I really hope we get more of her.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's our meet cute.
Awesome. So now we're going to move on to our quotables. Here is where we basically walk through the plot points and we pull out specific quotes that we really like or that we really don't, and we talk about them. So buckle up, ladies and gentlemen.
Buckle up. Okay. So the prologue, we're going to say it right this time.
Amazing.
Look at me. Okay, just to clarify for everyone and you, Becca, I did not read any of the sneak peeks for Reckless after we finished Powerless. Or Powerful. It was strictly just Reckless. I was like, we're going to read it as a whole. But this prologue had me confused. I need to know who the heck is A.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know. Like, that was rude, Lauren Roberts. Like, it felt like it had nothing to do with the story, but was like a little, hey, do you want something yummy? You can't have it. You can't know what it is. Obviously you know this. like because you've read it, so you might know who A is. But
Uh-huh.
anyways, to be fair to you, I did watch a video of Lauren Roberts from when before Reckless was out that we
Okay.
will learn who A is. So whenever that may be.
Yes.
So
So I am going to, for our listeners, if you don't want to hear this, jump ahead 2 minutes. It's not really a spoiler, but I'm going to tell you what my thoughts were when I was reading this the first time. And I already know who A is. So I just want to
so
clarify
we
that.
do. Yes.
Yes, we do figure out who A is. Now, when I was reading it the first time, I texted Keri and I was like, I think we need to read Powerful first because I was so confused about what was going on. And the reason is because I knew that Powerful was Adina's story. And I thought, being the trying to find all the connections person that I am, Peyton calls Adina A at the very end when she's like dying in her arms, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, did Adina know the princes beforehand? Like, is that what's happening? Like, or did Kai like bury her after Peyton left? I was like trying to figure out. I was convinced it was Adina.
Yeah, me too. For sure. That was my first thought.
Spoiler alert, it's not Adina. But I'm saying that because if you paid attention at the very, very beginning of the book, you kind of already have an idea who it is. So
Mm.
keep that in mind. I did not spoil anything. If you only read up to chapter 10, you can figure out who A is just through the beginning of the book. But yes, I thought it was Adina and I was like, what is happening?
I was like, how are they gonna give us like this whole story about like Adina being somehow connected to the princes and killing her immediately? Like that's so rude. But
Yeah.
I didn't think it was Adina once I reread the prologue because I was like, I need to know, I need to know.
Mhm.
But she like it says they do it every year, so I'm assuming that kind of hinted at to me like it's not Adina. So it's
Mhm.
something they've been doing for a long time. So it's someone important. Gail knows about them, so it wouldn't be Adina. Kit is involved normally. So it's
Mhm.
very interesting. I don't know who it is. I want to know who it is, but I guess we'll see.
You'll have to wait and
Uh,
see.
we get quite a few
You'll
A
know when
names.
you know.
I know.
What did you say? We get quite a few what?
A names because we
A
have
names?
Abigail. Um,
Adina,
mm-hmm. Um,
Andy.
mm-hmm. So we have three girl A names.
4 now
Four. Yes.
because of this A.
Anyways, I think it's either like a long lost sister or brother, or I don't know.
Okay.
Who knows? Anyways, I could sit on this for a while, so we're gonna move on. We're gonna move
I
on.
love it. I love it.
Okay. So I'm calling chapters 1 through 3 a cat and mouse game. Like Tom and
Amazing.
Jerry, if you will.
I love it. That's literally what I thought about.
I just imagine like a silver haired oh my gosh, Tom? Tom's the cat. No.
Yep.
Jerry. A silver haired Jerry running around and like a
Little gray Jerry.
big Tom. Like enforcer Tom. I need to figure out how to make that
Did you
on social
watch
media.
Tom and Jerry growing up?
Yeah. When my sister from Ukraine introduced us to Tom and Jerry and we watched it all the time.
She introduced you?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I know. I know it was like prevalent here, but like we actually started watching it more when she
Okay.
moved with us. So.
I I don't I feel like I watched Tom and Jerry when I was little because like my parents didn't like the new kids shows that were happening, so like that's what we watched as like cartoons instead of like the new kids. Although I did watch a lot of Dora.
Mm,
But yeah, no, I watched Tom and Jerry.
such a good one. Very entertaining
Is
for
it though?
adults. I mean, it's entertaining.
I guess it is.
It's very violent, but it's entertaining. Anyways, okay. So back to Reckless. This is not a Tom and Jerry podcast,
No,
which there
it's
should
not.
be.
There should
Any
not be.
okay.
What would
So
we talk about?
I don't know. I don't know. Anyways,
Anyway,
we meet Peyton only a short time after the incident at the bowl. So we're picking up right where we left off from Powerless. You know, where she like killed the king. You know, no big deal.
NBD.
Anyways, she, as Kai told her to, ran, but she didn't run too far because she's at her old home, which surprised me. I was like, girl, what are you doing? They're obviously going to go there first. I know she's hurt and needed a place to rest, but girl. Anyways,
Okay, but here's the thing. They didn't go there first.
well, I mean, they
Like,
would get there eventually, I guess.
definitely. And I 100% agree with you. But this is day 3. Like,
Mm,
she's been hiding out there for 3 days.
that's true.
Like, I don't know. I feel like that was either an oversight on Kai's part
A purposeful
or
oversight.
exactly. Like, I think that was almost intentional.
Probably. Good point. So we get this evaluation of her injuries and what scars Peyton has been left with from not only the trials, but like this last trial. So I wanted to point out here because I think this is going to be super important, especially based on Lauren Roberts' video where she said like she has a lot of little things mixed throughout that are going to be in Fearless, but she has her dad's journal and I'm excited to see what's in there. And she says like a throwaway line, like I know I'm not gonna have time to read this right now or like anytime soon. So I'm like, oh okay, this is gonna be important for later at some point, and I'm
Okay.
excited.
You think it's going to be in Fearless or you think it's going to be in Reckless?
It's either gonna be at the end of Reckless or towards the end of Reckless or in Fearless.
Okay.
So we'll see. I think it's
Okay.
gonna be in one of them. Has to
Okay.
be. It was not. It was just too random of a throwaway line. Like, girl. Anyways, as she goes to leave, Kai and his Imperials show up. I was just like, ah, I'm so excited. Kai and Peyton are back. Not really. He's technically trying to kill her. But
Yeah.
she ends up in the chimney, which she says again. Like, is there. Like, I couldn't remember a time in Powerless where she had been in a chimney.
The opening scene, she's in a chimney, remember? Because she's stealing the sticky
Oh,
buns.
that's right.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Parallels.
Parallels. Lauren Roberts at it again. They begin searching the house while she's in the chimney looking for her. And they even know about that secret compartment where they used to meet. So we can assume like there's
I don't know if they knew about the secret compartment. And I may be wrong here because I don't remember this super clearly. I think they just found the secret compartment.
I the only reason I think they knew about it beforehand is because she says they must have captured some of the resistance members who knew about it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So that's the only reason I think. As the Imperials are searching for her, he starts like talking to her. So he doesn't like know that she's there. And we get a confession that she still plagues his thoughts, which is love the play on word. So cute. And Peyton misses the Kai that was just Kai, the boy behind the mask, she says. All in chapter 1, Peyton is again at the edge of death. She gets hit with claustrophobia and has a PTSD episode when she remembers her Edina and her father. So, girl's going through it in chapter 1 already. She's got
Mm-hmm.
all things going on. And one more thing, Kai also gives her a new nickname, Little Psychic. And then they set fire to
Okay,
the house.
okay. Can we talk about Kai's confession for a second? Because you just
Yeah.
skipped right over that. he's like walking through the house by himself
Mm-hmm.
and it's like this is where I got the Tom and Jerry vibes cuz he's like walking through the house by himself and like all I imagine is him like and I don't know why I imagine this because it's probably not true, but I imagine him in like a blacked out suit, black shirt like with his hands behind his back walking around
Oh, he
searching
has to
for
have his
her
hands behind his back. That's definitely.
with his boots clicking on the wood floor and he's just talking to her and he's like Peyton, you I forgot the quote. I'm mad that you didn't pull the exact quote because I was so expecting you to. But it's he's like Peyton, do I plague your thoughts like you do mine?
Oh yeah.
And do you still think about me like I do? Do I invade your dreams or whatever he says? I don't really
Yeah.
remember. But like that's such a turning point for Peyton because she realizes she thinks that he knows that she's there and then his confession makes her realize that he doesn't know that she's there because he would
Yep.
never say those things if he knew that she was listening. So
Mm-hmm.
such a huge like turning point there I think for our characters because he's still admitting like hey I got it for you girl and she's like ha sucker you don't know I'm here blah 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 so anyways
Ugh, I love that she knows that he still has got it bad,
yeah
which will probably be important for later because he's probably gonna be like, "No, I have no feelings for you," and she's like, "Yeah, right. Okay, buddy, I heard you."
okay buddy
Like they're there, Kai. But then they set fire to her house after all that,
Mhm.
and Kai, our poor Kai, is feeling all the feels here in chapter 2. He thinks that his Imperials think that he's gone mad, and he says maybe he is mad, and then he says mad with worry, with rage, with betrayal. All valid. We're gonna give it to our guy. And as the house is engulfing in flames, he thinks he's going crazy when he sees Silver. Love it.
Yeah. So I want to can we back up for a second, just for
Yeah.
like 1 second, because he's like talking to his Imperials, and he we get this quote that says he's unsurprised by their incompetence, and I just like so when you're in your feels and you're like so irritated with the world that you don't know what you're feeling, anybody else who is not you, who would not do something exactly the way that you do it, is incompetent in your brain. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that he's just like, I'm dealing with idiots. Like, I, I'm surrounded by idiots here. Like, he's so
Isn't there like a
unsurprised by
movie
it.
like that?
I'm surrounded by idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what
What?
the quote is, but or I don't remember where it comes from, but he's just like not having it with his Imperials, which I think is so funny that he's just like not having it at all. Like he's just like so annoyed that he has to deal with these people and deal with like the fact that they are basically not him and also the fact that they're not Peyton. Like he's probably thinking like,
Yep.
Peyton would understand, but no, he's surrounded by idiots.
Peyton would catch Peyton.
Peyton would get exactly.
Also, it's from The Lion King.
Oh yeah, it's Scar.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
And that fits perfectly.
It does. With
Even
the
with like the cat and
hyenas.
mouse thing.
Ah, 10 out of
Oh,
10.
Lion King. Love it. Look at that. All right, so here we go. Let's jump into this more cat and mouse game. So Peyton is running for her life on the roofs, and Kai is trying, kind of, to get her, and she ends up killing an Imperial with a throwing knife, which Kai then thinks she is a vicious little thing, which is
Mhm.
cute. I know he's supposed to be mad at her, but he's giving her all the nicknames.
All the nicknames.
Adorbs. Anyways, I'm very focused on the nicknames lately.
I love it.
Yeah. And now he's focused on what Peyton could be doing since he lost her. So he ends up not being able to catch her. And he thinks, I imagine she's spinning that ring on her thumb at this very moment, biting the inside of her cheek as she forces herself to run for the man she just killed rather than dig him a grave like I know she desperately wishes to. He just knows her so well. He knows her little
So
quirks. He knows like what she would want to do, not just like what she would do. And he's not even assuming that Peyton has changed and isn't the Peyton that he got to know, which I think is really sweet. He doesn't assume like, oh, she's just a cold-blooded murderer,
yeah.
which is really good. I love that.
Yeah.
So during this, Peyton ends up getting an opportunity to get Kai. So like she has an opportunity to kill him and she doesn't. She has this huge hesitation. And even when Kai's words come back to her, promise me you'll stay alive long enough to stab me in the back. So she has an opportunity right now, but she doesn't. And,
Yep.
oh, our girl. They're both hesitating. So cute. They got it bad.
Yep.
But we learn that normally he doesn't bother to bury the dead that he kills or that like he comes across, but he does this Imperial. And he says, so the least I can do is bury you for her. For her, not even for the guy, the poor Imperial that literally works for him. Like, poor Peyton. Like,
Yeah.
homeboy.
I did not make this connection before, but he goes on to talk about how he's buried people for her before. And
Mm,
I could not think of like who he buried. And then he said something about like Andy, or not Andy, Sadie.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, like we had thought that that was a show of Kai's character, but it really was a show of Kai caring for Peyton and Peyton's
Mm-hmm.
character. And that's so like that flipped that whole scene on its head for me, that it was like it wasn't Kai burying Sadie just to bury her because he thought it was the right thing to do. It was Kai protecting Peyton, like, and Kai doing something to like help Peyton, which I
Mm-hmm.
think also goes to show his character, but
Yeah.
was a completely different view of that for me than it was when I like had just read Powerless.
Yeah. He's so sweet. He loves her so much.
I
He's got
know.
it bad.
I know. I don't know
She
that he can say he loves her right now.
No, he can't. He definitely can't say it, but I think he does.
Okay. I'll I'll back you up on that one.
Like, I don't want him to go like next set of chapters and the next 10 chapters be like, I love you, Peyton. That's like the I love you,
I
Riley.
would die for Riley.
Yeah. Hair flip.
I love that that's become like we reference that scene so much.
So much.
I would die for Riley.
I love that scene.
Uh it makes me laugh every single time.
Every time. Every time. So she actually heard him say that, like, the least I can do is bury you for her. And which makes her completely stop because she sees the boy. She sees Kai, not the enforcer, any of his masks. And I just love that so much. And in his POV, he's wondering why in the world is he even bothering with this? And we get this parallel. What has she done to me? Which we talked a lot about in our last episode about Powerless, of how what the parallels of what has she done to me? What have you done to me? And then she goes on to this angry rant in her head about everything that has happened with her father, Adina, how she wants to kill Blair, and then she never wants to hesitate killing Kai again. Which she probably will, if I had to guess. But let's move on to chapters 4 through 5. I don't have a fun name for this. I just said the desert and the brothers because
Ooh,
that's
okay.
basically what it is. But we're going to start with chapter 5 here. So now that Peyton has reached the scorches, she is lost. She's lonely. She's feeling insignificant, which isn't a bad thing. She is tired and hurt in so many ways. What?
What's not a bad thing?
That she's feeling insignificant. Because I feel like she's like kind of gotten this like built up of herself. Like she's kind of like, I can get away with everything. So like kind of knocking her down a peg a little bit, bringing her back down to earth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that your perspective, or did you get that? Like, was that something that was said in the book?
That was my perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't think it was said in the book at all, but I just thought it was good for her.
Okay.
I know she's been through a lot and she deserves to feel good about herself and like get away with everything, but I need her to be knocked down a peg again, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. But what has she gotten away with so far?
Life. Like she has her. I know
I'm
it's
sorry.
controversial.
I'm sorry. Did you just say that she feels prideful because she's allowed to live? Because she's
Basically, I guess. I know.
okay.
Anyways, we're going to move
We're
on
gonna
from
move
that.
on.
Anyways, she is tired and hurt in so many more ways than just like that she's been, injured, that she hasn't slept, she's been traveling through the scorches. And she continues to have these flashbacks to Adina's death and gets this new desire to continue on in life and keep the promise that she made to Adina to wear the vest. And she said, thinks, I have to live in order to wear this vest for her. And then she goes to sleep vowing to get revenge, which I love. I love a good revenge, like a main
Ooh.
character revenge.
Really?
Yes,
I love that. I didn't think you had that in you.
I do.
Okay.
Is that a
I
good
love
thing?
it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
I
good,
love
good.
it.
Cool, cool.
Miss Keri, you're very compassionate. You are a very compassionate person. So I love that you love revenge stories.
I hate Blair, so I'm okay with her
Oh.
getting revenge on her. I'm ready.
Okay.
Like I hope she gets a chance to kill her. That's a terrible thing
That's
to say,
so
but
funny.
these are
No,
book characters. I do
I
not
love
wish
it.
anyone to be murdered ever in
In
real
real
life.
life.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's clarify. Don't need
Yes.
this getting reported to the police. Anyways, we're going to move on. Let's talk about the brothers. So it feels like we are right where we left off when we last saw Kit and Kai together in Powerless. And Kai thinks Kit is different. We are different. I no longer know where my brother ends and my king begins. This entire chapter 4, and they talk super carefully. Like they are like tiptoeing around the issues, and there's like a
Tiptoe,
lot they need to work
tiptoe.
through, but they are on edge and tiptoeing, and it's bad. So Kai updates him, Kit, on what happened with Peyton, and we learn that Kit does not trust Kai, is actually going to bring Peyton to him. So this is interesting. So Kit obviously knows about a lot of the things that Kai has done, like the king didn't know about, like letting Abigail go. Like that's a big thing. While working through this with Kit, Kai just comes to the realization he desperately wants his brother back, but the king has taken his place. So he says the last thing I want is to view Kit as nothing more than my king, to treat him how I treated the one before. Kit is easy to love until he begins resembling the father who had little love for me. Just ouch. Like,
So that was like the biggest gut punch.
mm-hmm.
I highlighted that as my favorite quote
Really?
from this. Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
wild that I mean, we've been getting that from Peyton all through Powerless, the struggle of Kit King. And
Yep.
now Kai is oof.
Well, I highlighted at the end of Powerless that, like, Peyton, like you said, we've gotten from Peyton so many times that his eyes look so much like the king's.
Mm-hmm.
And we have we hadn't really gotten that from any other character until the very end of Powerless when Kai closes the king's eyes and
Mm,
he's like, I can't stand to see Kit's eyes so lifeless. So like
yeah.
I think that was such a good foreshadowing for from Lauren Roberts about like, oh, this is where we're going. Okay.
Yeah. They finally stop tiptoeing a little bit and they end up talking about Peyton and how their feelings for her are gone. We're gonna quote gone because neither of them, their feelings are jumbled. They are not gone.
Yep.
Um, and Kai actually admits that it's a lie that his feelings are gone for her. He admits it
Yep.
to himself, not to Kit, of course, because no, no, no.
Yes.
And then they're talking about the quote betrayal, like of letting, children go and like probably letting Peta go. And Kai is like reassuring Kit here before I was your enforcer, I was your brother. My loyalty is to you and no one else. And Kit ends the conversation with him wanting Peyton brought back alive, which I am theorizing will complicate things later. So, anyways, we have a lot of complicated brother relationships that I think we're going to see a lot of in this book.
Very complicated.
Yeah, but those are chapters 1 through 5.
Okay, so for me, I titled chapters 6 through 8 The Scorches. So we
Ooh.
open up in chapter 6 with Kai having another nightmare. But compared to previous nightmares we've seen in this series, this one is about Peyton alone. You know, previously, Peyton has been among his other kills that he's done before, and Jax was in one. But this one is solely about Peyton and specifically what he needs to do to Peyton and what he thinks about himself because of it. So
Mhm.
when he first sees Peyton in the dream, he's almost happy and relieved. We get a quote that says, "She strides towards me, the sight so familiar that I find myself fighting a habitual smile, the muscle memory yet another memento of her."
So cute.
So, so cute. And then with the forget me nots, this turns this dream into a nightmare. And we get another quote, "What have you done to me?" from Kai. And then Dream Peyton, and I do want to highlight that this is Dream Peyton. This is not something that actually happened. This is Dream Peyton turns and fights back here. And when she fights back, it's Kai's subconscious fighting against himself. It's not Peyton saying what she actually thinks. So
Mm.
we're back to his unconfident, insecure self, and then he wakes up. So he's woken up and he wakes up his Imperials, and we get a lot of inner monologue from Kai here about how he feels like he's going insane in the Scorches and how Peyton is haunting his thoughts and obviously his dreams based on basically this whole chapter.
Yeah. And I love this quote where he's thinking at this time, like, it's dangerous how much I think of her, how much everything reminds me of her. And I think we actually get this again later on in this set of chapters.
Yeah. Even down to like he's eating rabbit and
Mm.
he's like, I wonder if my mouth twitched like she told me it did in the trials or something like that, you know?
He's got it so bad.
So at the same time, Peyton is traveling by herself and is also going insane in the Scorches. So insane, she's talking to a scorpion about food. And I want to highlight that she says, quote, "Sometimes I wonder if I even like the candy, you know? Like maybe I just convinced myself I liked them because he did," which is groundbreaking for Peyton. Previously, we've known Peyton as this really self assured and confident person, right? She's confident in herself, she's confident in who she is and what she can do. So, for her to start questioning if she really liked something is concerning here because she's starting to lose parts of her inner self that we have come to love. And she is questioning if she's even really the person that she thinks she is. And I
Mhm.
know this is just about food, but this is also like she's questioning the connection she had with her father, which is basically the whole reason that we had a book one in the first place.
You're right. You're right.
So she sees the city ahead of her, but is so exhausted. And we get, quote, "What am I living for? Why am I putting myself through this agony?" Now, I do want to highlight that this sounds slightly dramatic for sure. But let's recap what has happened to Peyton so far, basically in the past 3 months, 2 months, something like that.
Not a long time.
Well, her father was killed in front of her, and I know that happened 5 years ago, but it has constantly been something that she's been dealing with, specifically over the past 3 months.
She has not worked through that fully.
No, she has not.
Homegirl needs a therapy. Don't we all, though?
Okay. So she ran away and lived on the street of Loot for years, which she still is also not over. And then this is where the past few months comes in. So she was drafted into deadly trials where she almost died multiple times. At the end of those trials, she held her best friend as she died. Both boys she had come to know as friends or more have turned against her and are trying to kill her. The resistance she worked for is all but gone for all she knows. Like, she has no idea what happened to them since she left. And she has no one to live for but herself. Like, she has nobody else. Because even if she still loved Kai, she thinks that he thinks that she is, like, worthless because she killed his dad. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, this is like, yes, it's dramatic, but like it's also like girl's been going through it and has had a lot of trauma in her life that has been almost multiplied multiple times by the past 3 months that she's been going through.
Yeah. And I don't think this is the end of her trauma.
Yes,
Oh,
I would
no, no.
agree. So she falls asleep and she wakes up in strong arms that she's known for the past 3 months and decides to not hesitate and break his arm. And it's not Kai. This entire scene gives me the creeps. I do
Mm-hmm.
not like this guard. I know it was extremely traumatic for Peyton to kill again, and I'm not discounting that. But oh my gosh, I am so glad that this guy got what he deserved.
Yep.
Because, ugh, yuck.
Yeah. Gross guy.
So she kills him and runs away and then is found by Kai. And I have well, the guard is found by Kai. And I have a slight problem with this, if I'm being honest. In my mind, the Scorches is huge. And Kai is traveling with like 4 to 5 men, maybe. So his party is really small, and the Scorches is supposed to be huge. And they just happen upon this guy she kills in the middle of the desert. Like, if they had been like, I don't know, 10 yards to the right or the left, they never would have seen this guy. Especially because Kai says like he's been dead for like a day. If it's like a day in the desert, like that does a lot to like any kind of evidence. I'm surprised they even saw him. I'm surprised he wasn't buried underneath the sand from the wind in the desert. And it just seems a little too convenient that they found this guy, but
Mm.
whatever. And then they can also see the footprints in the sand that, quote, shows sign of a struggle. I don't know about you, but sand doesn't show crap, much less if it's windy. So I don't know how Kai is like seeing through the sand to see that there were signs of struggle, but
Do we know
a
that it
little.
was windy? Like, does it say that in the book? I don't remember.
I don't think it ever says that, but it's windy and door.
Mm.
And they do say like Ilya gets the breeze off the water. I forgot what the water is called, but gets the breeze off the water, but Door's only source of like breeze comes off the hot desert.
Mm. Okay. That's a good point. I think with them finding the guard, they probably have like one way to the city or something. And in my mind, I don't know if this was like in the book, but in my mind, I thought like he was like closer to the city. So it wasn't odd to me that they found him at the entrance, even if they came like this way. or like this way.
Okay.
But the sand, you got a good point there. There's really no reason for them to see that.
Okay, I'll that does make sense.
But the
Okay.
sand, yeah, that makes no sense.
Okay, so Kai does find the guard. We're not discounting that, but we do get quote, after drawing blood your whole life, every stain begins to speak if you only listen. Is Lauren Roberts a true crime lover as well? Because this is so true. So, little background about me, Becca. I wanted to be a forensic scientist growing up for the longest time. Like, that's what
Ooh.
I thought I was going to do with my life. I took a forensic science class in college. I loved it. I learned so much. But bloodstains do show what happened in crimes. Like that's like the number one piece of evidence that like you can show, and it like to the point where they can tell like what direction you're walking based off of a drop of blood.
Oh
Like
my.
it's crazy the amount of like evidence that you can gain from bloodstains. So, yes, I think this is an accurate statement. Sand doesn't show crap, but blood will tell the story. So,
You're gonna die on that sand hill.
I am. We're going to die
I
on
love
that
it.
sand dune. Okay. So Kai also thinks in this period, like as he's examining the guard, like, quote, if she's hurt, I need to be okay with that. And he still has it so bad that he's like thinking through this.
Mm-hmm.
So once Kai gets into the city of Dor, we see the dislike for him and Ilya emanating from all of the townspeople. He gets charged double for the boar. The people dislike him so much they have to separate because they draw too much attention. When they split up, um, Kai basically becomes ordinary in the streets of Dor because he can't pull powers from the Imperials that he brought. So it's very interesting because the people of Dor still treat him with such utter dislike, even though they don't like he can't do anything to them
Yeah.
because he has no power here. Like literally, like this is the best case example of you have no power here. Like there's nothing that he can do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's supposedly one of like the strongest powers in all of Ilya, and his every day was spent training with this power. His daily schedule was literally to wake up and train with other people's power for hours and hours and hours until he could hone them just as good, if not better, than the other person, like the person whose power it was.
Mm-hmm.
So he has had a plethora of powers to pull from for his entire life, I think. For his entire life. We're still not super sure on when powers manifest, if it's from birth or if like it some people are late bloomers, like we just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But in Dor, he has no powers to pull from. So aside from the people's dislike, like he literally has no power to pull from, making himself an ordinary. So not only does he feel powerless, like he feels like a piece of himself is missing, it kind of is missing. And he is slowly becoming the thing that he has supposed to have hated his entire life. So like what a mental like spiral, like
Mm-mm.
like he's chasing after Peyton because she's an ordinary, and he is basically an ordinary right now because he has no power.
Yeah. I think the only
Crazy.
powers he could pull off of would be his Imperials, right? And they are not elites. Or they are elites. They're just like the mundanes, right?
They're defensives,
They're
so like
defenses. Okay.
yeah, but even then he can't pull from them because they're too far away, like they
Mm.
separated.
Yeah, I think I was just thinking if they're with him.
Oh yeah.
But like where he is right now, yeah, there's nothing. I
Yeah.
loved that he like was feeling ordinary and he's like slipping through the crowd and realizing he has no power to fool for and he's not the prince, he's not the enforcer, and he thinks suddenly no one of importance, ordinary if you will. Which I love the play on words here. So cute.
Yep. So good. Okay, chapter 9 through 10 is called The First Rule of Fight Club.
I love that you named it that.
We don't talk about Fight Club. Okay. So it's been a couple days since Kai and Peyton separately have individually arrived at Door, and Peyton is trying her hardest to make some friends and make some money. So after stealing from Francis, she overhears someone betting on Slick to win a fight, and her ears perk up because, quote, where there is money to be won, there is money to be stolen.
Yeah, I have to interject here really fast before we get too deep into Fight Club because you
Okay.
did excellent covering Fight Club, but there were some points here I wanted to pull out.
Okay.
There are like three-ish quotes. I think I added more after I wrote there were three quotes. But before she goes into Fight Club, that like either point us back to Powerless, which I really love, or just a quote that I found funny.
Okay.
They're all in like two or three pages, so we'll be really
Okay.
quick. The first is from Peyton's point of view after she steals from Francis, and she's talking about how she's so desperate to start over in Door, and she thinks one cannot be considered powerless if everyone else is as well. No, here I'm considered equal. So we get a powerless.
Yep.
Yay. So just I have such high hopes for our girl here in Door. But then she realizes her silver hair makes her stand out later in the chapter. And Becca and I talked about this off podcast, but I was super confused about the hair thing. Very confused. But before reading Reckless, she explained it, but then we got this quote here. So for anyone else who was also confused like me, um, she thinks any sort of oddly colored hair is a dead giveaway as to having plagued blood running through your veins, whether you are ordinary or elite. So that cleared up a lot of things for me. So hopefully you listeners enjoyed getting some things clear about the hair. Love it. Okay, the next quote is her talking with Francis, and maybe I found this funny because I live in Florida and it's swelteringly hot. And she's talking with Francis about the heat indoor, and he says, "This is our winter season." And she says, "Oh, well, that's terrifying." And this is literally how I feel about Florida. So I've lived
Yep.
in Virginia and Connecticut, and I lived in Florida my whole life before that. And Florida summers suck and Florida winters suck. So just saying, I understand a little bit. Door's probably much, much worse, but I understand a little bit. Anyways, the last quote that I wanted to point out from this section is when she's talking with Francis again and he calls her funny and gives her a nickname, Pale Thing, which I love that she's getting a nickname from Francis now too.
You really are all in the nicknames.
I am. I love nicknames. My
I love
grandpa
that.
used to give everyone nicknames, so I love that.
Oh, that's really
So
sweet.
yeah, I think that's why.
Okay, so after all that happens, Peyton makes it into the underground fighting ring and decides she wants to try to fight for money instead of steal it. So she goes up to the owner and he gives her a chance to fight after some thorough convincing, and she becomes Shadow. Carrie, what do you think about this fighting name here?
I didn't even catch that for some reason.
Really?
Um, I don't know. I feel like she could have come up with something better.
Interesting. Okay.
What do you think?
I thought it was a little cheesy, but I understand why her name was Shadow. Because, like, the whole, all of Powerless, she talks about how she hugs shadows and, like, shadows are her friend. And, like, she hides in the shadows. And
Yeah.
especially even when she's running away from Kai, like, in Ilia, like in Loot,
Mm-hmm.
she talks about being in the shadows all the time. So I get it. I also think it's a little cheesy, but
Yeah. I think definitely
whatever.
there could have been a different name, but I understand it too, like you were saying.
Okay, so a couple nights later, Kai is walking around the city when he gets robbed by who he thinks is Peyton, and like he's even like hesitant to turn around because he doesn't want to see her. But then he comes face to face with a knife that he gave away, and he looks down to see Abigail. Now, for those of you who do not remember, Abigail was the young girl that Kai banished in Powerless with her family out to the Scorches. This happened I think like chapter 2 or 3, very, very
Mhm.
early on in Powerless. He was supposed to have killed her, but took her back with her family to what he assumed was also going to be death. Interesting here that she made it though. And Keri, you previously had said that you had hoped that she would make it because the resistance had some kind of outpost or something in the scorches, and or something that helped ordinaries get across the scorches. I think that this almost disproves that,
Mhm.
because they made it across, and like, I think some people just make it across just because they make it across, and some people do end up dying, almost
Yeah.
like Peyton did,
Mhm.
but that they do make it across just because they're prepared to make it across. I also do want to highlight here for Abigail, her mom, I believe, was a healer.
Oh,
One
yeah.
of them was a healer. So I'm curious if having a healer while you're crossing the scorches like helps you, because
Mm.
like they can heal whatever you're doing. So as long as the healer is being like the healer gets probably the most food or whatever, so they can sustain their power, they can help everybody else sustain.
That's true. I think we the journey of Peyton crossing the scorches was to show us how people could make it
Yeah.
across. And I honestly would prefer that rather than like an outpost or something of the resistance. Like, I think
Yeah.
if there was that, they would have obviously helped Peyton. But since there wasn't, it's like, okay, people that have a strong will to live and have the resources, enough resources, like with the healer, those people make it across. So,
Yep.
yeah, that's interesting.
100%. So Abigail brings Kai to a random building, and Kai is thinking about how similar Abigail is to what he assumes Peyton would have been at her age. We get, quote, "I can't seem to escape the thought of her, the sight of her and those surrounding me. It's infuriating. And what's worse is I may have just helped craft what will soon be another version of the thief who got the best of me." Ah, I love it. And that's the end of chapter 10.
Ooh, I can't wait to read the next set. Awesome. So for our tomes and tonics, this is where we get to pick the drinks that we think the characters in our meet cute section would drink. So
Yep.
for this one, we have Abigail. I
Yep.
did a white peach tea with a lemon slice and a dollop of hot honey because she's got a little
Okay.
spice.
Okay. I
What'd
said a
you
strawberry lemonade because she is like Peyton, and Peyton we said
Mm,
was a blueberry lemonade.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Ah, I love it.
So we don't have many magical moments. We don't have any magical moments today because we don't have a ton of new powers that were showcased or came up in this set of chapters. I have read all of Reckless, and I'm going to be honest, we probably won't have a ton of magical moments during this book. So do keep that in mind. But if we do, I'll point them out. Don't you worry.
Yes, you
But
will.
thank you so much for listening to us today. If you like today's episode, please rate and review us wherever you give us 5 stars. If you could really focus, if you're listening to us on Spotify, and give us a 5 star review, that would be amazing. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to get notified of all of our episodes. Also, the best thing you can do is share us with your podcast friends or your book friends, especially if you guys are reading through Reckless right now. So,
Mhm.
share us with your friends.
Yeah. And for more content like funny memes, relatable book quotes, our favorite quotes from the books, and more fun things, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Tomes and Tropes Pod. Or if you have thoughts about this episode or this book, email us at tomesandtropespod@gmail.com. And again, if you want to talk Reckless with spoilers, make sure you put like For Becca's Eyes Only or spoiler alert, something. I don't want to see it. So, we'd love to hear your thoughts on Reckless so far, and then we'll see you next week as we go into chapters 11 through 20.
Stay curious and keep reading.